got Jared Tonks in the rod and gun number 91. He's going to start off of pole, so that's the spot to be. Although he has had a little bit of drama this weekend already. He's had an engine change overnight. Last night, they only fired that car up at 11:30 p.m. and they're back at the circuit here today. So he's managed to do well to take pole after some hasty repairs yesterday. He's ahead of the previous champion from last year, Luke Gretschkumbo, in the number 1 machine, the GC Electrical Senator, with Ian McLennan and Andrew Butcher on the second row of the grid, 3rd and 4th, right behind the front two. So good result for those two. Great drive actually for Andrew. He's had a few repairs, had to take place to that BMW over the course of the year, and that's a really good result there in 4th. 5th place is the other man who is fighting for the championship honours with Jared Tonks, Cade Lehman, the number 26 machine, just 6 points behind. So with 100 points on offer today and tomorrow combined, it is very much a wide open championship fight for the State Series crown in improved production. Peter Dixon in 6th in the Monaro. Brett Porter's the first of the under 2 litre cars in the Honda Civic. A fine qualifying for him in 7th place, ahead of Jin Wook Song in 8th.
That's a pretty impressive qualifying there, because a 2 litre car here can suffer with the long straights that we've got, but that is a very impressive show of speed. Anton Bergman in the Audi, back to Larry Merrifield in car number 50, still in the XL?
No, that's in the another one of the Civics.
Civics, of course, an update there. Paul Gavots in the blue Civic there, and Callum Jensen in car number 242, and that's the Peugeot 306 GTI 6. Impressive bit of kit there as well. Rohit Sani in position number 13. Anthony D'Anna in car number 60 there as well. Car 60 is also a BMW. Richard Valentich, and I'm going to say a red, white and blue Tirana, because it has been for many, many years and always looks great on track. In 16th is Andrew Noy.
Yep, Andre Noy in the number 119 there in 16th, ahead of Wayne Decker. And then we get a handful of the Hyundai XLs that are with us this weekend. So Chris Bodale in the number 128 in 18th. Scott Appledore in the Hughes Brothers Removals and Tiger Tune number 32. It's been a little while since we saw Scott, so it's great to have him back. Carly Fleming in 20th. And then the last few spots on the grid are Peter Fleming and Jason Orchard, both in XLs, and Nick Higgins, who will start off the rear of the grid. Had a little bit of a drama in qualifying. He only had 1st and 3rd gears, and that was it in a 5-speed box. That's not what you want, so he's been able to sort that out in the downtime between qualifying and race 1.
Yeah, certainly you can show your Corolla some revs at any day of the week, but at the bottom of this long straight, you're going to need 5th gear in that Corolla, and Nick's been feverishly working down there in the paddock between qualifying and now, so great to see that he will be there. In fact, I cannot confirm nor deny that he's actually on the marshalling area at the moment, so let's just wait and see if that white and red tribute Toyota Works team car makes its way out on track, and I believe that it is actually for sale. It's a very, very diverse use for that particular car.
Yeah, it certainly is. That is, it's one of 2 cars that's currently for sale in the improved production field. The other is the Hyundai XL that belongs to Scott Appledore. He's possibly looking at a slight upgrade, still with Hyundai machinery, but into a 2 litre capacity moving forward into next year. So the little XL is for sale, and it has competed in the Hyundai XLs as well as improved production. So fit for both purposes. So there's a couple of cars there for sale. Looking forward if you want to get into a race seat for 2025, Darren.
Geez, I tell you what, there is some absolute firepower here in an outright sense and in a 2 litre sense here for improved production today. It's been a little while between rounds for the Prestige Hino field, and I tell you what, if you want first couple of rows of very, very fast IP cars, then round 6 of the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championships, brought to you by AAA Home Loans and of course Trico. This is the place to be. That first, I'm going to say 5 rows is absolutely rapid, and you throw a couple of under 2 litre cars in there as well, and they are all over it.
Absolutely. We were looking at the times after qualifying too, and a number of drivers got very close, if not within earshot of the outright track record here for improved production. We believe that it stands at a 103.22, I think, if memory serves me correctly. I think we got down into the mid-3s at our return last year, but there's definitely been some improvement over the course of the last 12 months to both cars and drivers. So I think a few drivers might be trying to give the lap record a shake, and if it's going to happen, it'll come from the front 3 rows of the grid or so. We keep talking about the championship battle between Tonks and Lehman, but there's actually only 7 points separating 3rd, 4th and 5th in the improved production outright standings. So currently it's Peter Dixon holding 3rd. He's in the silver Monaro. Then you've got the yellow Monaro, the yellow nugget as he calls it, for Ian McLennan. That's in 4th. So he's a couple of points behind Dixon in the for 3rd and 4th. And then the 5th place man, surprise or not, is the car on screen there with the pink roof, Anton Bergman. So he's right in that mix for 3rd in the championship for the state series as well. So there's a lot that could change this weekend, or if you have a bad result here or there.
Anton Bergman, always that car always looks awesome. The E30 BMW, and in that black livery that we all remember so well from the Australian Touring Car Championship that Frank Gardner presented the cars in for that long. And I am really looking forward to seeing, well, that car, the HSV Senator, lights ablaze, or has that just been extra nicely polished there that it's glinting in the sunshine there? But the car for Luke Gumbo, the Pro Cut car, and the car behind him just grabs first gear there. Ian McLennan, that is ready to go. Slotted it into first, and the car just lurched on the brakes. Really looking forward to getting this done. Field still wobbling their way out of the last corner.
The biggest field of the weekend.
This is losing its time in the race. Come on, guys, let's get this all into place. Watch the E30s, how they do it. They all stop and go within about 10 seconds of each other. Victims of their own success. The bigger the fields, the more you have to wait. But let's watch the front 2 rows of the grid. The number 59 Epilepsy Foundation of Andrew Butcher, the BMW. Let's see how he goes. The revs are absolutely thumping. Car 1 gets away beautifully, as does the 59 on the left side of the track. The rod and gun entry there of Jared Tonks gets away beautifully.
Here's an absolute drag race down to turn 1. Both the front row got away very, very nicely. It's just Gretschkumber edges ahead. Now under braking, Tonks is the one that edges ahead. He's got the inside line here. There's a little gap there for Gretschkumber just to turn right down into in front of Cade Lehman. That could be rather important if he's still ahead of Lehman by the end of turn 1, and he is, so that keeps him in the game. And we've got Valentic around in the number 15 Tirana. Called his number a little bit early on. The car's still in the same colour scheme, but albeit facing the wrong direction at turn 1.
Macca getting it all sorts of sideways across the ripple strip, going down Jane Hill, so he would have grabbed a cog, powered down on the painted ripple strip there, and that was a massive handful. Have a look at this beautiful BMW of Andrew Butcher. Ranges up the inside of Peter Dixon in the equally magnificent number 21 Monaro. But it is out in front now. Jared Tonks has responded to that magnificent start from Luke Gumbo, and he is absolutely thumping down the straight here, banging through the gearbox in these massive horsepower Commodores, and that BMW just sounds a treat. Dixon now across the line.
5-second time penalty's been handed to Andrew Butcher for a jump start, so he had a good launch there, but unfortunately has been adjudged to have gone a fraction too early. He might have just rolled a little bit at the start. So for him, that will be added to the end of his race time. Good start for Cade Lehman. He started 5th. He has moved up into 3rd position in the timing standings. So that's a couple of extra points for him. And crucially, Ian McLennan is still ahead of Peter Dixon. So that then will close the margin down between 3rd and 4th in the championship if it stays where it is. But now Lehman coming under pressure from the much faster in a straight line Monaro.
I tell you what though, Macca is absolutely got the Pro Cut Monaro wound up. He's come off the back of the ripple strip through the flip-flop there, the Trico flip-flop, and he is absolutely demonic in his presence on the track at the moment. Watch the Pro Cut Monaro on the straight now. Here comes Butcher in the BMW. Got that 5-second penalty hanging over his head. And at the moment, that is going to be about position 5 down to about position 20. How compact the field is up behind him at the moment. Streaming down the famous drag strip here at Calder Park Raceway. They head down into turn 1. There's a couple of under 2 litre cars leading their class as well.
That's the one in front there. The yellow car belongs to Brett Porter. He's a rookie this year in under 2 litre improved production. He's had a superb season. It has not put a foot wrong all year, and he leads the under 2 litre club championship by quite some margin. as a result as well. He's had some great battles with Larry Merrifield, but Larry's had his fair share of mechanical gremlins this weekend as well as throughout the season, so it hasn't been kind to him, but he's still there, still trying to take the fight down to Island Magic in a couple of weeks' time, but as it stands right now, Brett firmly has the upper hand in the under 2 litre class.
Anthony Downer now all over the back of Paul Watts. The BMW just can't seem to get past the wily Civic. These Civics now for quite some time, since Jordan Cox lit up the internet chasing down Ray Hislop at Mount Panorama, these Civics have been absolutely massive. It's been the Zorkas car that has been very fast in the Victorian series, but this yellow one is absolutely starting to come head and shoulders above the other under 2 litre cars. Here's the Bergman BMW. I love the pump guards on this car, the stance, the width of this number 66 always looks so cool on track. Anton Bergman driving the wheels off it, and I tell you what, at the moment it's the 52 rounding him up to try and get those spots back, which is Brett Porter.
Certainly is. Just ahead of them as well, Jin Wook Song, who was last year's Rookie of the Year for improved production. He was one of a handful of drivers that missed this round last year. They broke a piston at the preceding round of the championship last year, which meant they had to miss Calder Park. So he's very much in a learning experience this weekend, but he's enjoying what he's doing. He's had a great season last year. He's having an equally good season this year, but he hasn't been able to shake Anton Bergman, and who himself hasn't been able to shake Brett Porter in all of this. You'll see that Jin just pulls away down the straight. That's the V8 horsepower coming into effect. But then through the back part of the circuit, where there's all the flip-flop up the hill, up through the chicane, then he just can't hold that margin that he inherits down the front straight. He cannot just keep them at bay. He manages to lose it and then he gets it all back again. So this is the nature of what we see in improved production with the different types and makes and models of cars that we have.
Gee, I feel for Brett Porter in the 52 here. I understand an under 2 litre car, and you get on the straight, you think you've got it, and then a couple of extra cylinders, a little bit more capacity, and they just drive away down the long straight now. Getting a good look at a couple of the protagonists further down the field. That's Wayne Decker and Noy.
Yep.
Here we go. This is Nick Higgins, so he is in the race in this magnificent little Corolla. He ran this in the tribute class at the Winton Festival of Speed put on by the Victorian Historic Racing Register. It was a great weekend, and the tribute cars had a massive field, and this really is a beautiful build, and I'm pretty sure I'm not out of line by saying this car is for sale.
It certainly is for sale. End of the season, it is definitely up for sale. Nick's still building up a Gemini at the moment, so he's trying to get that up and running for racing, but as he did say to me in the paddock, the wallet's taken an old hit this year, so you just got to manage that a little bit, and hopefully we will see him out in something next year racing, but they've just been lapped as well. So this is how quickly these races go. Still 3.5 minutes to go, and already the race leaders are lapping the back markers.
I'll just remind Nick, it's probably been 20 years in the build, that Gemini, so I'll just put that out there, Nick. There you go. You've got 2 years to get it finished, mate.
There we go. Here's another one of the cars that's up for sale. It's the one on the left of your shot there, the number 32E, which is still carrying that tribute livery from back in the day when it ran in XLs. It's Scott Appledore, and they're just bit of an awkward time there for the faster cars to come across them at the top end of the circuit, slowest part of the circuit, but they've managed to do that pretty well with Lehman and McLennan managing to slip through. Butch is now about to do the same thing and leave the XLs of Appledore, and I think that's Carly Fleming behind. They're two very similar cars, Carly and Peter Fleming, but one's got the big old rally-style rear wing on the back, and the other one does not.
Jeez, I tell you what, Mac is probably suffering from getting the car a little bit wild, a little bit sideways, putting on probably a little bit too much wheel spin in the first couple of laps. Got 6 laps done, 2.5 minutes left on the time certain clock, but he's starting to look after the car a little bit more now. But Cade has certainly shown us for at least a couple of seasons now that his car control is brilliant. And just watching the back of the black Commodore number 26 move around a little bit here, moving on its tyres as well as the yellow Pro Cut Monaro as well. Just see the car just yawing a little bit there. So starting to really pull the skill with that middle pedal at the moment, just making sure that you can pull it up without losing your brakes completely. But our two guys out in front, as Luke Gretsch-Gumbo just absolutely thumps down the straight just in front of these two, and this is for third and fourth on the race.
Certainly is. I'm just looking at the different lines that some of them are taking as well. You see that Ian's taking a bit more of a gradual curve through the final part of the straight, whereas Cade's trying to cut off the avenue a little bit more and drive it a little bit straighter out of the corner. And that goes with what you're saying, Darren, that they're trying to just manage their tyres a little bit rear grip limited. So the way you can combat that is just by changing your driving style approach, whether you beat the corner off, whether you take a more gradual approach and put less steering lock on, and therefore you have less steering lock to take off, so you can continue to make nice pace around the circuit. So you'll see here Tonks turns in from a nice wide angle as the traditional racing line goes there, and then when these two come along you can see that McLennan's having a look at the inside here. He can't make that stick, but watch what happens when they come out of the final corner. So through the little flip-flop, they call it here, and you'll get a really good shot as they exit here, where Cade sort of takes a bit more of a tighter line, whereas Ian's going out a little bit wider, trying to drive out nice and smoothly on the power, and therefore doesn't have to put so much steering lock on. I do like the fact that Mac is out there in the Pro Cut car, and he is putting on a show there. He's having a look inside, outside. He's having a look over the back of the ripple strip to see if there's some time there as well. Really putting on a great show. I'm pretty sure he's there to try and make up that time on Lehman. And it's almost like a story of two different driving styles you've been just describing there, Steve. And it is how they do it, isn't it? And that is, Macca really does like to get up on the wheel. Cade is more, I guess, a little bit more relaxed with it. And either way, makes me happy. What I like was the camera coming up over Jane Hill with those two V8s. Oh, Bergman the slide. Big rear lock for Anton Bergman. Lose the spot to the 121 HPS car there of Jim Song. Not quite. No, he's not. He managed to hold on to it, but that was a scary moment for Bergman. That's probably about the first major little misstep he's made all season long. A little bit of a rear shattering on the rear brakes going into turn one, left it a little bit too late, and just managed to keep it on the tarmac and hang on to that spot ahead of Jinwook Song. Gee, we're looking straight in on Peter Dixon now. You can just about see him changing his mind inside the silver Monaro there. Veltich in the Tirana, Decker in the Audi coming down the straight now. We've gone 30 seconds and our leaders are on the last lap now. So there goes Dixon down the straight, and our race leaders are working their way up over Jane Hill now. There's Tonks bringing it into the end of this race. Certainly is. He's been able to control this from the get-go. Had a little bit of a tardy start, but managed to outlast Luke Gretschkumbo in the drag race to turn number one. And by virtue of holding the inside line, he was able to hang on to P1. And he's managed and controlled this gap quite nicely. 3.5 seconds there or thereabouts is going to be the finishing margin for the Rod and Gun number 91. And he chalks up another win this year, and he will extend his very, very slim margin in the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championship fight over Cade Lehman by a couple of points. Lehman's going to finish third. So 30 points to Tonks, 26 to Lehman, so that makes the margin 10 at the end of this race with 2 more to go this weekend. So Andrew Butcher will be added that 5 seconds to his race time. We're just seeing a bit of a timing glitch there at the moment. It's putting him at the top of the race. So I think they've deducted 5 seconds rather than added 5 seconds. Yeah. They've given him a gift, but that will certainly replay itself. The timing screen just going a little bit berserk at the moment. Great to see such a big group of combined clubs here this weekend, because each round of the series, except for Winton and here at Calder, are run by separate clubs, whether they be the MG Car Club, the Mini Car Club, PIARC, or the Australian Sports Sedan Association of Victoria. Improved production now rolling down the pit lane. My name is Steve DeVries, and opposite me is a man who I guess we can say is currently on hiatus when he's not doing a whole bunch of things with his son Daniel karting. Like last night, he moonlights as a co-commentator here. Opposite me is, of course, David Cox. Welcome, Dave.
Good morning, Steve, and welcome everybody. Look at the crowd starting to gather on the hill. There's a lot of IP shirts out there, and yes, we were down at the Oakley Club Championship yesterday, and we managed to snag second in the club championship, so that was very hard fought. And there's a number of other IP kids in that category as well. Stephen Zorka's son, Jack Zorkas, was also in the race. Jamie Augustine's daughter, Ellie, wasn't there yesterday, but she is also in the go-karting fraternity as well. So yeah, we've got a lot on our plates at the moment, and trying to get race cars ready as well. So, but here we are for the second last round of the championship. Phillip Island will obviously be our last round, but we've got a great field. It's great to see we've got so many good cars out there, and everyone's having an absolute ball. And I believe everyone behaved yesterday, and we had a couple of lap records.
Absolutely, everybody behaved yesterday, so let's have a look at the grid really quickly here. So Jared Tonks with pole and the win yesterday, and a new track lap record to boot as well. So great job by him, with Luke Gretschkumbo alongside. Cade Lehman and Ian McLennan behind them on the second row of the grid, from Andrew Butcher and Peter Dixon in 5th and 6th. Anton Bergman and Jin Wook Song, they're 7th and 8th. Brett Porter is the lead under 2 litre car. He also took home a new under 2 litre trap record for improved production yesterday as well. And Anthony D'Arna in 10th. Paul Javots in 11th. Larry Merrifield, we believe, will not be starting out of position 12. We'll touch more on that in a moment. Callum Jensen and Rohit Saini 13th and 14th, with Richard Valentich and Andre Noy 15th and 16th. Wayne Decker, Chris Bodal is the first of the Hyundai Excels, with Carly Fleming and Scott Appledore behind him on the 10th row of the grid. And then the last few cars are Peter Fleming, Jason Orchard and Nick Higgins, who's been battling some gear selection dramas. He was actually on the back of the Porsche 944s this morning with a discretionary lap just to check that everything was in order. And there he is at the tail of the field in the little Toyota Corolla.
I did speak to Nick just before he went out, and they do believe they have fixed it. They did some rather clever work overnight, and it looks like it might have been sorted out. So hopefully Nick has a good run and making his way through some of the field.
He was borrowing the Vice yesterday afternoon on the workbench of the ProCut Monaro team to try and drill out a few things, I think, to make some of that very clever work happen. And I did have a look this morning as well. So they've managed to get that sorted and get him on the back of the field.
So not zip ties and ties and race tape, no?
No cable ties, no race tape, none of that. It all looks very nicely, professionally put together.
At the back of the field there, so revs are starting to rise, so we're about to get a start.
Certainly are, and off the front row of the grid, same as yesterday, although this time a little bit of wheel spin for the Rod and Gun number 91, which gives a little bit of ascendancy to the reigning State Series champion Luke Gretschkumbo. He covers off Tonks heading down the chute to turn number 1, and he'll have a comfortable margin into the braking zone on the bumps into turn number 1.
And Andrew Butcher there managed to squeeze through onto Peter Dixon Monaro and has made himself there in the 5th place as Peter gets a little squirrely coming out of there, but that will be a great relief there to be able to get past the motor race.
Tyres and more tyres was a discussion yesterday afternoon after race number 1. Peter Dixon and Ian McLennan, you can both see that they were swirling around, mostly rear limited for grip after about 5 or 6 laps running around. So shorter race this morning, 13 laps, with the weather not as hot as what it was yesterday afternoon. So you want to make use of those tyres while you've got them under you. The Yokohama AO50s, and Ian McLennan tried to throw one up the inside there at Lehman at the run to turn number 6, but Lehman covered it off very quickly. These two, of course, battling for some championship honours here. Lehman needs to stay in touch with Jared Tonks, because there's only 10 points between the two of them for 1st and 2nd in the state championship, and McLennan himself in a battle with Peter Dixon and others for 3rd overall in the state championship. So still a lot to play out for this weekend.
There certainly is. There's the great battle down the back there with the Scott Appledore, and then the Nicholas Higgins Corolla. Must have fixed that gear selection, because he's, whoa, there we go. And we've got lovely sideways action there into turn 1 as Callum gets in the inside of Indiana BMW.
He certainly does. So they're going to stay side by side going up through here, through turn 2, through turn 3. Anthony stayed with it as long as he could, but the pug of Callum Jensen is through. Hopefully there's not some reoccurring gremlins there for Anthony D'Arna. They came out of qualifying yesterday. All the spark plugs were out of that car. It was almost like the car was misfiring, but and it had dropped a cylinder, but they just couldn't put their finger on what the problem was. They got back out there and circulated pretty handsomely for race 1. It looks like he's tidied up most of those gremlins. He's giving the Peugeot of Callum Jensen still a bit of a hard time as they go into the last couple of corners, while the over 2 litre cars are streaking away down this long front straight here at Calder Park. Lehman now right in the toe of Ian McLennan.
And how good is Andrew Butcher going there?
Well, right around the outside. That's ambitious for Lehman, and now looking for a crisscross on the other side. But he had 2 wheels in the concrete going down into the braking zone at turn 1. Very sort of ambitious move there. Quite put it off.
He might have thought there was more grip on the concrete than on the bitumen, but not quite. But have a look at Andrew Butcher hanging on to the back of these two guys as they're battling away there. Andrew's been able to really hang on to the back of them, and if their tyres start to go away after a few laps, then Andrew will be right there.
Yeah, better balanced car with the BMW compared to the much heavier V8s that are just in front of him. Pace-wise, Jared Tonks is starting to get his skates on here. Luke's a little bit wide at a couple of corners, and Jared's had a good run here out of the final corner, and this now will be a drag race, door handle to door handle, mirror to mirror for a few seconds down the front straight. And if you're going to be protecting the lead here, you need to be moving over to the right-hand side. Flash, flash, flash on the lights there for Luke Gretschkumbo. There are some slower cars here. Jason Orchard on the outside of turn number 1. Looks like he might be battling some sort of mechanical gremlin there, because he's well off the back of the other XLs, which are past this pair of turns, and they're actually down the final sequence of corners. So something gone wrong there for Orchard in the XL.
Yes, it's unfortunate for the races. It's good to see the boys up the front being nice and clean and putting on a good show for everybody.
Certainly was good traffic observance as well there, we must be said, by Jason Orchard in the XL. That's one of the things that is instilled into improved production. There's such a big variant in terms of pace and makes and models of cars that you can be caught rather quickly on some of these circuits where the lap time's just over a minute long. They go fast, so you've got to be paying attention to what's coming up behind you.
And how good is this battle between the Peugeot, the BMW and the Honda? They're all nose to tail, giving each other a little bit of room, nice and tight, but it's a good clean race with these guys. It's really entertaining to watch.
Certainly is. While this battle's going on, Paul Travots is just eyeing off what might potentially be 2 spots if these two come to grief. And he's had a good run out of the last corner as well. Now he looks to the right-hand side onto Anna. The BMW have some legs in a straight line here. The Peugeot, I'll tell you what, that's got some poke in a straight line too. Very tidy.
Absolutely skyrocketed away from these boys.
Speaking of skyrocketing, I've just noticed Brett Porter has lowered the under 2 litre lap record again from yesterday. He's now gone down to a 5.9 where he did a 6.4. That's incredible pace, under 106 in a little Honda, in a little Civic.
That is sensational time.
What a sensational time that is. Ian McLennan's just posted the fast lap of this race at a 103.01, but it's still a good 4.5 tenths of a second off the mark that Jared Tonks set yesterday afternoon. Here's Bergman down the inside of Brett Porter. Now, is he recovering or is he defending? Because it looks like he might have potentially made a mistake, and he's now gotten back past the number 52 yellow Honda Civic. I keep saying it's a Hyundai. It's not a Hyundai, it's a Honda.
Yes, that's right. Now let's see what the straight line performance is of that Honda going down the straight here, and it's staying right with that BMW, so it's got plenty of poke, that little Honda.
Yeah, it certainly has. It looks like Anton must have made a small mistake there on the last tour, because he was about 2 seconds slower than his last lap. So he's come off the track somewhere, and then he's repassed Brett Porter and moved himself back up into position number 8. Porter himself is 9th outright on the road, but first, of course, in class. Now, Luke's had a much better run through the back market traffic here compared to Jared. So while he's negotiating the last corner now, he's got a good couple of car lengths on Tonks behind him. This battle now that we're focused in on here, Porter has such a good run out of the flip-flop chicane that they've tightened up here on the back straight in the last 2 years, and he's really giving Anton quite the hurry up through the twisty parts of the circuit.
And it's really hard to see where to look on this track. There's so many really good battles going on, and it's really good to see that there's so many people. You've got someone to race with everywhere you look.
That's right, and these two are 2 completely different classes as well. A 2 to 3 litre car in Anton Bergman in the BMW, and a 2 litre car in Brett Porter as well. Looks like Anton's just managed to gap Brett a little bit here as they run down towards turn number 1. But then we're now back to the Hyundai XL battle. So this is Chris Bodal. I think he's the lead of all of the XLs that are here at the moment. Scott Appledore in behind him. And one of the Flemings, I think that's Carly Fleming, the car that doesn't have the rear wing, tucked in behind Scott in the 32. He was having a look here at Chris Bodal. That doesn't come off at turn number 6. This has been a much better weekend for Chris. He had a drama here last year where the bonnet came up and broke the windscreen on that green and black XL. But none of that behaviour. He's put a lot more effort into making sure that bonnet stays secure since that incident. And you can see there, bonnet pins are doing their job. They're holding that green bonnet down quite firmly as he goes up to maximum terminal speed here down the front straight.
There's one thing that once it's happened to you once, it never happens again.
That's right.
A lot of damage to the car and also the windscreen. So once you've had that happen to you, it's always, I've seen a number of cars that put multiple bonnet pins on for that reason, because they have in the past been known to break if you use some brands, but some people have 3 or 4 across the front, just in case those things do happen.
Contingency planning
Yes,
is what I think a lot of people call it, just to be safe. Peter Dixon now powering past a couple of the XLs there, just in the back of shot there, the number 21 Monaro. Now he's third outright in the state championship, and we mentioned it's down to him, Ian McLennan and Anton Bergman. They're the ones fighting over third overall. Now, McLennan has shaved that margin down quite comfortably from yesterday. He's got a good stranglehold on third place here as well, so that will tighten up the state series points for third overall, unless Peter can do something about it this afternoon. He's got a fair bit of work to do to catch up to Ian McLennan now, so he's at the top of the straight, whereas Ian McLennan's almost down at the bottom of it at turn 1, so there's plenty of time that he needs to make up there.
Yeah, Jin just got held up a little bit there by the XLs. He was trying to get through and get on the back there. As we see a car just come into pit lane, we just had a quick shot there. Looked like Richard Valicich's car come into pit
just
lane.
in the back of shot there, absolutely.
Just in the back of the shot, yep. No, that's unfortunate for Richard, but I did see some news came through that he did have a flag, so there must be something wrong with the car.
Yeah, so he had a spin yesterday afternoon as well. He was turned himself around all by himself at turn 1 on the opening lap, then went through and recovered back to where he started. But does unfortunately have a mechanical gremlin, it looks like, and he's decided to pull the pin. This is a sensational battle between the XLs. Appledor's just gone through on Bodale, but then they've been rounded up by Anton Bergman, and now the Civic of Brett Porter's trying to do the same. So everywhere you look, there's battles going on, but at the same time, there's other battles that are passing those battles too. So the good situational awareness by the slower XLs while they're in their own battle to let those other faster cars go past and let them resume that, although Anton is still maintaining that gap over Brett as they come around the final corner and onto the straight, which will be for probably the second last time. I think the final lap board will be going out for the race leaders this time around. Cade, is Lehman still harassing the back of McLennan? He hasn't been able to find a way past though.
No, but he has made up a lot of ground on this lap, so he must have had a little bit of lap traffic that he's had to get through, and that's allowed Cade to catch up right onto the back of him. And I wouldn't be surprised if Cade has a big lunge going into turn 1, because he's got a nice sideways coming onto the straight there.
Last lap board on display for the leaders. They've just taken that now, so flashing the lights again, Luke Gretschkumbo. There's a couple of cars just ahead with some lap traffic. That's a battle for P1 and P2. P3 and P4, it was the other way around yesterday. It was Lehman leading McLennan, and now the shoe is on the other foot. And ran a little bit deep into the corner there, Ian, but he was the car ahead, so he was allowed to do that. So that battle continues on for the rest of the lap. Up and over Jane Hill for the last time this morning for IP. Gretschkumbo, big bit of air under those left side tyres. He actually got a little bit of the grass on the exit, got a little bit too greedy. Going to go past the car of Rohit Saini here, the HSV GTS, and into the final sequence of corners. It looks like they smartened that car up. He's looked after its tyres a lot better compared to what it did yesterday. And the GC Electrical HSV Senator will come out of the final corner with a nice little margin here, little wiggle, but that's okay. He's got margin to burn, and he greets the checkered flag first ahead of Jared Tonks. So it was Tonks yesterday by about 4 seconds, Gretschkumbo by a little over a second this morning, and Ian McLennan will get home for third ahead of Kay Lehman. So he managed to hold him off, and then Andrew Butcher home for fifth. So good couple of battles there in the top half a dozen spots for the overs. And the lead undercar is still Brett Porter, I'm led to believe. Yes, it is. Still trying to find a way past Anton Bergman. Hasn't been able to get that move done. And that should be, unless he throws up the inside here late. No, not quite at the final sequence of corners, although Anton's a little bit wide. This actually might be a closer than you think situation at the line here.
No, the
Nope.
BMW's got the straight line power, Steve.
Just a little bit of extra in reserve for Bergman. He would have been happy with that battle. He shaved some time off his PB yesterday, so he would have been very happy with that little scrap there with Brett Porter. Brett home in 9th outright, first of the under 2 litre cars overall. The next of the unders was Jensen in the Peugeot in 11th, and then Paul Javots in 12th.
Yes, it was a really good race. There's lots of really good battles going on all over the field there. So if you've got nothing to do this afternoon, make sure you get out to Calder Park, have a look. It's much better when you're actually here, sitting on the hill, and you can probably have a quiet sip while you're there.
Absolutely. In terms of the state championship points for Jared Tonks, that's another 4 points that he takes out over Cade Lehman. So the margin now out to 14. It's still not done and dusted. That will go down to the final round, the final race rather, this afternoon to decide that. And then in the 3rd, 4th and 5th place battle, that has really tightened up. I think Ian McLennan might just have the chocolates at the moment, or just might have his nose in front in the battle for 3rd in the state series points. So again, another one to go down to later this afternoon. There's the confirmation of your finishing position. So Gretsch Cumbo, the 2023 state champion, will be handing that title over later this afternoon, finishing first ahead of Tonks, McLennan, Lehman, Butcher, Peter Dixon, Jinwook Song, Anton Bergman, Brett Porter, who was the first of the under 2 litre cars home, and then Anthony Diana in 10th.
The cars are just starting to head out on track now. Luke Gretsch-Gumbo heads up the field, and then Tonksy and then Macaro, I believe, broke the lap record in this morning's race.
Not just the overlap record went, but the underlap record also went in that second race as well. So in both races so far this weekend, both the under and over 2 litre lap records have been lowered twice. So that's the other lap record holder right there on screen. Brett Porter in his rookie season. Hard to believe he's now a lap record holder.
That's unbelievable.
That is fantastic.
And how good was the race that he had with Anton Bergman?
Well, we're about to see it continue, I reckon, in this longer race this afternoon as we have a look at our grid here. So Luke Gretsch-Cumbo and Jared Tonks off the front row of the grid. So they've got 1 win apiece between them this weekend. So that splits them with 30 points for each win and 28 points for second place each. So that means it will be a winner-take-all, effectively, this race for the round honours, with Ian McLennan and Cade Lehman on the road behind them.
Now, Cade has got a little bit of a wounded car as he heads out, so we're not sure how it's going to go, but I'm sure the boys made some pretty good changes on that, and a couple of suspension changes as well, but the car is a little bit wounded, so we'll just have to keep an eye on that. I did notice Nicholas Higgins heading out again as well, so he had a spark plug lead come off in the first race, he tells me, so he'll hopefully move through the field and have a better race as well.
Hopefully he will. Andrew Butcher in 5th, Peter Dixon in 6th, with Jinwook Song and Anton Bergman rounding out positions 7 and 8. Brett Porter, the first of the under 2 litre cars, there in 9th, with Anthony Diana's BMW next door to him, and then a Peugeot and a Honda in the under 2 litres behind them, Callum Jensen and Paul Javots. Then in 13th is Rohit Saini, with Andre Noy in 14th in the Ford Falcon, Wayne Decker in the Audi, and then the first of the XLs in Scott Appledore starting in 16th. With Chris Bodale, Carly Fleming, Peter Fleming behind them. Jason Orchard has put his car on the trailer and gone home. He believes he's dropped a valve in that car. Nick Higgins will be off the rear. Larry Merrifield unfortunately went home this morning with some clutch issues and missing second gear. And Richard Valencic, I don't believe, is going to take the start for this one either. He's welded up part of the car twice on the rear left-hand corner of that car this weekend, and it let go again. And he just said, no, I can't continue to repair it here at the track. It needs a proper repair, so we're going to have to take it home and unfortunately sit out the 3rd race. So talking about wounded cars, there's a few that have gone home, but there's a few that are out there still, I guess, limping around to the checkered flag this afternoon.
Well, let's hope we get a nice clean start as we're just waiting for the marshals to
just noticed someone's missing here. Sorry to cut you off, David. Just noticed a couple of cars that are missing here. So next door to Ian McLennan, Cade Lehman has not taken his starting position in the same way that next door to Jinwook Song, Anton Bergman hasn't taken. He's a row further back than what he should be by the looks of things. Yes. So there's one car out of position and 1 car missing.
Okay, just waiting for. Here we go, and if we go off the start, we've got Luke and Jared have got a very even start there. Looks like Luke may have just got the better of him. Mac is there, pulled into 3rd. as we go along and down to the turn 1. At this stage, it looks like Luke is going to have the better of him, but Mac is going to do a massive dive under brakes, and he's actually going to get up the inside of Luke, but Luke gives him enough room, and Macca then drives into the lead and leaves poor old Luke out to dry.
Oh,
and
this
as Jared
is tight.
comes in, oh, nice and tight, but nice and clean. It's very willing there at the front, Steve, as Jared drops the wheel, and that allows Luke to get a good drive down the hill and heading up the back straight.
I reckon this would probably be the first race that Ian McLennan has actually led. Some big airtime over the curb there at the flip-flop as Tonks and Luke Gretschkumbo go side by side, and this is giving a little bit of a margin now to the Pro Cut Monaro, who will cross the line, I would say, at this stage, first for the opening lap, probably for the first time, I'd say, in as well, as far back as I can remember. I don't think he's actually led a lap of a race for in IP at all.
I don't believe
he's
so.
about to chalk one up.
And he hasn't dropped the wheel off anywhere, so yes, you're going to be right, Steve. It's going to be Macca across the line, and then we'll have Tonksy, and then there's Luke Gretschkumbo and Ian Dixon, and it looks like Jin Won Song has made a very good start as well and has got ahead of Andrew Butcher.
Yep, he's up to 5th place there with the Butcher's BMW behind him in 6th place with the headlights ablaze, but Butcher will be a lot better under brakes, but with the straight line horsepower, it will be the 1-2-1 that has to just fight there, but he has done fairly well to leave the gap open for Andrew, who scorches past on the exit of turn number 1. So Butcher back up to where he started in 5th place. And here we go, a bit more of change, heading up over Jane Hill. That is, Tonks has now taken the lead of the race away from Ian McLennan. So it lasted about a lap and a half, and now Gretschkumbo being held up by the yellow Nugget Monaro.
It's very close there at the front for the final race today. And then Peter Dixon is only just a few car lengths back, and then we've also got Butcher, who's only a few car lengths behind him. So it's shaping up to be a pretty close race here, Steve.
This one certainly is. Now, something we were talking about earlier in the weekend about being close was the State Series points coming into play. Something that I didn't know, which you actually corrected me off air, was that we've actually been given, then by we, Improved Production has been given some dispensation to conduct their final state round at Island Magic in a month's time, which normally doesn't happen.
Yes, that's correct.
So that means that this is not the end of the State Series Championship for Jared Thompson, nor for Cade Lehman, who doesn't look like he's suited up for this one. That will still go down and be decided at Island Magic, but still, the finishing results of this race are very, very important, not just for state, but also for club championship points as well, because it is very tight in both situations.
It does look like Andrew Butcher has just snuck up to the back of Peter Dixon there. And have a look at that under 2 litre car. It's only a few car lengths back.
Yep. So there's a little bit of a couple of drivers dropping some wheels off, which is so easy to do coming out of the flip-flop there on the back chute, as Paul Javots looks like he's managed to get the best of the Peugeot of Callum Jensen down into turn number 6. And indeed he has, so that's been secured. The car ahead of them that dropped off 2 right side tyres going through that flip-flop is Anthony Dana in the BMW E36.
It's a great little tussle here at the moment. It looks like Bergman's just, Diana is just a little bit ahead of Javots and Callum Jensen. That thing's got a fair bit of straight line power, so I dare say he might give him a bit of a scare under brakes as he comes down into turn 1. And as I speak, yep, there we go. He's just going to dive straight in underneath into turn 1.
Yep, so much more power in a straight line. There's been some great tuning going on with that car. They've had a few gremlins over the course of the weekend, but nothing that hurts it in a straight line. It is an absolute jet, that little Peugeot 306. There's Anton Bergman behind, so he must have made a mistake somewhere and he's now having to catch back up. He's starting in front of these 2 cars on screen right now. So his last lap time around didn't look all that bad, but it must have been a couple of laps earlier when he dropped back behind them. He shouldn't have any troubles rounding up the Civic of Paul Javots, who sees him coming and realised there's no fight worth having there. And
steering and lets him through, but he's going to have a little bit of a fight back here and then takes a position back as they go through the flip-flop.
I'm just wondering then if Anton's maybe battling some sort of mechanical issue there, because that should have been an easy pass at the end of the day for the BMW.
And we've got some news coming through. There we go. That the Brett Porter car has got smoke pouring out of the back of it. It looks like something's let go horribly on that one.
There he is.
Let's hope we can get him out of the car quickly, and there's nothing else other than a bit of oil on the exhaust.
Yep,
We've got a yellow flag out there.
There'll be a safety car for this one because that's in a fairly dangerous position on the front straight. So I would say they will neutralise this in a few seconds, and there it is. They have neutralised this race. So just as the battle was starting to get a bit interesting here, careful, Luke, don't stick a nose up there because the yellow flags are out. So that settles things down. I also just noticed before that safety car was called, a 5-second penalty has been dropped onto the head of Jinwook Song, which will be for a jump start. This is what he wouldn't want to see because that compresses the field, and now he's got to get that margin out all over again. Now, Brett, I think, is still in the car.
They're telling him to stay there at the moment,
and
just waiting for all the cars to go past.
Yep. So it looks like an engine has let go, and that's a shame. He has had such a stellar year as a rookie, and not only that, he's currently the under 2 litre lap record holder here. He lowered it yesterday, he lowered it again today. It's now down to 105.98, which is phenomenally fast for an under 2 litre car.
If you go back to when we last raced here in 2007, there wasn't a lot of cars that could actually go that quick around here. I mean, the track layout has obviously changed. It's made it a little bit longer, but there's still an outstanding lap time.
That is.
But having the safety car will certainly help a couple of the boys up the front with the tyre problems. They'll get them to cool down a bit. Probably Andrew Butch is not all that happy about that, but he would rather the V8s start losing some tyre and he could make up a few more positions, but it's going to certainly help out Tonksy and all the other boys in the V8s up the front.
Yeah, certainly will. And what we were talking about this morning, and I was talking with Darren Smith and a bunch of others yesterday, the tyres, after about 5, 6, 7 laps, they start to go away from a lot of the heavier cars, so they go into a tyre preservation situation. So the longer the races are, the worse it is in conditions like this for your V8 power cars up the front. Gives a bit of a free kick to some of those more nimbler cars like the BMWs.
Which certainly has enough power to really hound them, and the outstanding handling of the BMW just is unbelievably good. Under brakes, they're so stable and you can stand on them as hard as you like. And you'll dive straight up most of the inside of these Commodores, and probably a few hundred kilos helps as well.
Absolutely. Well, while we're under a safety car control at the moment, I guess there's a few little things we can get out of the way. Once again, of course, Prestige Hino, big thank you to them for continuing to sponsor improved production, not only last year, but this year, and hopefully beyond. Danny Timewell behind the scenes has done a fantastic amount of work to get Prestige Hino on board with the club over the last couple of years, and it's sad that we don't have him here this weekend, but we're hoping to see him again for Island Magic. He's had his fair share of heartbreak with that car over the last couple of years with a couple of rebuilds.
I spoke to Danny yesterday, and they're well underway to have the car ready for Island Magic. The engine was in it, and another IP competitor, Ben Schutz, is doing a lot of the wiring on the car. They've just filled the car to the top with Motec products, so they're getting that all sorted out, and they should be well and truly on target to hit Island Magic. Touch wood, if everything goes according to plan, they should be well and truly ready to go.
Absolutely fantastic.
Stephen Zorkis, I also spoke to him last night. His engine goes into his Honda on Monday, and they're hoping to have it on the dyno later in the week. So Steve should be able to do a couple of shakedowns before Island Magic, because he hopes to enter Island Magic. There's a number of competitors from New South Wales coming down, a couple of V8s, a couple of BMWs, and South Australians as well. So yes. Island Magic is shaping up to be an absolute cracker this year, Steve.
Yep, I have seen already on the entry list. I think Steve Zorkis has put his name down. I've seen the reigning Matthew Flinders plate holder, and Adam Poole is in. I think he's now up to 3 in a row, so he'll be targeting 4. Scott Cook, one of the fastest S13s in the country, he'll be there. I've heard Ryan Gordon from New South Wales is coming down as well, so definitely looking like it's going to be a great event. And speaking of Phillip Island, one important little thing that comes up for Victoria next year is, of course, the Improved Production Nationals. Now, at this stage, things are not 100% confirmed, but all odds are pointing at it being hosted next year at Phillip Island later in the year.
Yeah, absolutely. We're working very closely with Pyack to make it happen, and we're hopeful that we're going to have a crowd similar to we had last time we had the Nationals at Phillip Island. We had 132, I think, competitors, which made it the biggest single event ever in Australia, and we would love to be able to get somewhere close to that again next year. So we're starting to really promote that and get ready for that for next year, because it's looking to be the biggest nationals we've had for improved production in the last 4 or 5 years.
That's right. Now, normally for us it comes around once every 7 years, but with COVID in the way, that obviously pushed everybody back after COVID by a year. And of course, we were scheduled to have it this year because the territory dropped out, and then they got theirs back. So then that pushed us back. So it's not such a bad thing, but everybody else has now got to wait sort of 8 years for their next go instead of 7, which is normally the case.
And we are one member short this weekend, Neil Crow, who's been a long-time supporter and entrant in improved production, probably close to 20 years. Unfortunately, he had to pull out this weekend. He had a family member pass away suddenly, so unfortunately Neil had to pull his entry and go and be with the family, as you can understand. So we pass on our condolences to Neil and his family as they go through a pretty horrible time.
Absolutely horrible time. Let's get back to racing. Just over 8 minutes left on the time certain clock as they thump down the front straight here at Calder Park. Look at the top 3. They have already gapped and left Peter Dixon by at least a dozen car lengths. Big lock up for the Rod and Gun 91. Has he gone deep? He's gone very deep. He's gone into the weeds on the outside of turn number 1. He lets through McLennan, Gretsch-Cumbo. Through goes Butcher. Through also goes Peter Dixon. So that's a costly restart for Jared Tonks.
It most certainly is. It's put Peter Dixon up to 3rd place as
McLennan up the inside.
He's absolutely gone airborne through the chicane there, and it's a straight down to the back corner, but he's got Luke covered there for going into the end of the back straight. He's had a black lock up and he's run wide, and it's very willing between those two, and I think there might have been a little rub there, Steve.
The good mates have made a little bit of contact at turn number 8, and then again at the final corner, and there's a couple of licorice straps being left behind the GC Electrical Senator as they exit turn number 9. This is not quite gloves off yet between the good friends, but this is very damn close.
It most certainly is. There's a race. Anyone would think they were going for a championship here, wouldn't you, Steve?
You wouldn't think so. Lock up on the front right for Luke Gretsch-Cumbo. He was on the left going into turn number 1. They escape unscathed. Look, McLennan's gone defensive super early here.
Another lock up by Luke as Ian seems to get just a little bit more relaxed and up over the hill. And Luke gets massive sideways jump there as they come through over the Jane Hill and through the crisscross.
Tell you what, McLennan's going to be slightly compromised with some of the lines he's taking. He's going to have to be very careful. Luke's throwing the kitchen sink at him here and forcing a few small little mistakes. There's another one for McLennan, running slightly deep at turn 6 again, but doesn't have to worry about the side-to-side contact this time. But with the Senator all over his rear boot lid at the moment, he's just being forced to take a few compromised lines, and that's going to probably pay dividends sooner or later if Luke can find a way to make him just crack under pressure. It's going to be anywhere, I'd say. It's going to be either down into turn number 1 or it's going to be coming down into turn 6.
It certainly is, and if they keep painting the road black lines wherever they are, they're both going to run out of tyres, and Tonksy and Butcher will actually eat them up. But they're having an absolute cracker here at the moment. It's amazing to watch.
Tonks is going to be on them in a few seconds if these two continue the way that they are. He's managed to get past Butcher. He's rounded up Peter Dixon down the front straight this time around. He'll start to emerge into shot just over the back of Jane Hill, I think, in a minute. Yep, there he is. Just a flash of yellow of white as they came over Jane Hill. He's a couple of seconds in arrears, but he is going to be rapid.
He most certainly will, as they just settle in, and I think after the restart, the mist has sort of calmed down a little bit for a lap or two, and they're just going to just follow each other around just for a lap, just to calm their nerves down and go, right, we can have a good race here. And but Mack has just run a little wide there, and that's allowed Luke to paint the road yet again.
But that's the line that Mack has been taking all weekend long. He's been taking that longer arcing road through the final corner, not putting so much steering lock on. That's just the way that the car seems to be driving quite nicely for him. So we've seen that in his battles with Cade Lehman over the first 2 races, where they were just taking slightly different lines. Luke's taking a similar sort of concept to Lehman, sort of V'ing the corner off and trying to cut the last part of the final corner as much as possible for the straightest possible exit. While we settle that battle for a little bit, we go back to Scott Appledore, who has got, I think that's Carly Fleming all over his rear bumper coming into the last sequence of corners.
And I believe that Scott Appledore has actually put that car up for sale. He's building a later model car with a Lantra engine in it. So there's a really nice, clean XL if anyone's looking to jump into IP racing and start off in an XL. There's a very neat, clean little car.
Absolutely. The other car up for sale, of course, is the Nick Higgins Corolla by the end of the season. That will be, I believe, is going to be up for sale as well. That's it there, right in the front of your shot. Very nice little clean retro look there. Chris Bodale, I think, is actually leading this little XL battle at the moment. He was in a great fight with the two behind him in the second race this morning.
As we come down on the straight, as Andrew Butcher pulls in right in behind Peter Dixon as they head down in turn one. And he's close enough that I think when he gets to the braking marker, he might, Dixon might have just got it far enough away to stop Andrew having a big lunge under. But Peter's also locked up a brake there, and he's trying really hard to keep that BMW behind him. But I think Andrew might just there's not a lot of time left. But I think Andrew's tyres are going to be a little bit better than what Peter's are, and he might just actually get through in the end.
Got some good initial acceleration going up the hill here. Oops, switch, a little bit of a half-hearted look there. He's definitely got some much better traction coming out of the corners, Butcher, but just the horsepower in a straight line, Peter Dixon is just absolutely taking away any prized opportunities. Although it might be one here as he goes a bit deep there. Butcher's going to hang it right around the outside. He's got his nose in front and he gets it done, and some late evasive action there for the 21. So he had to give him the space, and he did. He probably just got a little bit too scared there, that thought there might have been a bit of contact. But Butcher is through with a very smart bit of driving, capitalising on the mistake of the heavier Monaro pilot.
It certainly did capitalise, and here comes Peter down the straight, and see if he can catch him before they get to the turning marker. But if he doesn't, he certainly won't get past under brakes, because the BMW will just pull away under brakes.
Peter Fleming, the lap traffic there, probably sort of took away any possible chance that Dixon might have had to draw alongside Butcher going down to the braking zone at turn number 1. This is where Butcher will make some time. He's got great traction out of here up the hill compared to the Monaro, and he'll just take off, and that'll give him a bit of an insurance policy heading down to turn 6.
We switch back now to the under 2 litre race here, and with Callum Jensen still got Paul Javots just behind him. Looks like the boot lid might have had a little bit jump. A jar there is bouncing up and down. Maybe it's just come a little bit loose.
Now I know Paul's got a couple of straps on either side of the rear bumper that actually hook onto the hatch to make sure it stays down. So maybe one of them's come a little bit loose.
And it looks like Mac has still got the number 1 position at the moment as they head down into turn number 1, and Luke's got the headlights ablaze because he doesn't want to get caught up and let the guys in front know that he's coming, as Mac is going to catch them right at the wrong place, I'd reckon. They're going up over Jane Hill, but they hopefully will be able to see him coming and just hold their line, and then we get through without getting held up too much and giving anyone any advantage.
Yep, so down the hill from down to turn 4 and 5, Wayne Decker pulls over to the left and lets them through, and then same for Andre Noy, pulls over to the left, lets the 2 leaders through.
Which they've had a really good run through the traffic, and they've actually extended their lead over Jared Tonks, who hasn't been able to make too much of an inroad over the last couple of laps. So it's certainly given him a little bit of a breather, these 2 out the front.
Yeah, he definitely has. That gap has sort of stabilised now at around about 6.5 seconds. Probably got 2 more laps to go here. There's 40 seconds left on the clock, and it is time plus 1 lap. So he's got to survive another 2 here to make a first race win in improved production, Ian McLennan. He's doing a fine job at the moment now that everything's all settled down. There's only one driver out there that did a PB on a previous tours, and that was actually Andrew Butcher at a 4.88. It's a bit of a far cry from the new over 2 litre lap record that the man who's in first place set in the first race of Sunday morning for improved production, lowered it down to a 102.4, which is absolutely astonishing.
It is absolutely amazing. We'll get some massive air through there. And just looking at the timing screen, it looks like Butcher's broken the back of Peter Dixon. He's managed to drive away from him in the closing stages of this one. So, but as you see up the front here, we've got Macca is still managing to hold out Luke, who's just sitting there waiting, just push, and just see how Macca goes with the pressure. I do believe that he'll be okay.
I think so. Last lap board, I'm sure, is about to be held out. Yes, there it is. It is ready and waiting for them as they come across the stripe this time around.
It's going to get William Oval now, Steve. Well, I think Luke's going to give it a red hot crack into turn 1.
He's been gnawing away on the rear bumper of the 115 Pro Cut Tree Services Monaro for the better part of the race since the safety car went in.
He keeps it nice and straight as they go through turn 1, no sideways and no lockups, and he's just driving the thing very straight now, trying not to paint the road too much. He's just taking overheating the tyres, and that'll slow him down. But Luke gets a massive drive over the hill, and he's coming through, and you've got a really good run on Macca as they head up the back straight.
Nice and clean through the flip-flop, has a little bit of an insurance policy here. Looks set to be home and hosed.
He certainly does, unless he has a slip off the track somewhere, which I don't think Ian will, because he's driven really, really well this race. I think that he's just going to wobble around here, and he's going to put the pedal down and paint the road nice and black for us. Come on, boys. And he's going to cross the line. And it looks like Ian McClellan's going to get through for his first improved production win. Congratulations, Ian. Well done, Luke.
Big fist pump there as Ian went across the line. He knows it. Well done, Ian McLennan. The man who brought him into improved production in the first place, his good friend Luke Gretsch-Cumbo finishes second. So that's a picture that the pair of them are going to cherish for quite some time. Jared Tonks home in third. Fastest lap of the race for him at a 103.24. So he will extend his state championship points lead. He'll also extend the club championship points lead, both of which will go down to Island Magic in a little over a month's time. With Andrew Butcher fourth and Peter Dixon in fifth. Jinwook Song has crossed the line in sixth, but he does have that 5-second penalty over his head over Anton Bergman. Then in eighth place, Anthony Deana. Callum Jensen has taken line honours for ninth in the Peugeot, I believe. There he goes. Yep, across the line ahead of Paul Javots in 10th.
Okay, it's probably a good thing we don't have live coverage over to Macca's car, because I reckon there might be a few fist pumps and a few expletives going on in that car, because that's his first win, and I reckon he'll be very, very excited. And I wouldn't be surprised there's a few punch marks in the top of the roof there. He'd be that excited in that car. Congratulations, Mac. That's a really great effort, mate. Well done.
Always great to see a new winner in any form of motorsport. There he is pulling into the pit lane at the back of your shot there. A first up win for the Pro Country Services Monaro. It's taken a few years, but he's finally done it. Well done to Ian McLennan. Gretsch-Cumbo second and Jared Tonks in third. Great run by Andrew Butcher then. Peter Dixon he really backed off after all of that little battle with the BMW for fourth and fifth. Jinwook Song in sixth. Bergman seventh. Dana eighth. First of the under 2 litre cars home. It was going to be the 52 machine of Brett Porter until it looks like the engine expired in that one, and he's unfortunately a non-finisher, with Callum Jensen now taking ninth and the first of the under 2 litre cars home, just ahead of Paul Javots, who gave him a close run thing at the end of the day. Well done to both of them as they got across the line for 9th and 10th outright.